Ironmongery. Before I squeezed in next to Amelia, I gathered the pillow from the upper bunk. Once I had managed to arrange myself under the covers beside her, I extended my arm, and she put her head on my shoulder, but interposed her pillow. We have done this often, so the whole operation was accomplished wordlessly. I could feel her unencumbered breasts beneath her nightgown. A wonderful comfort. And was her intention that we share the bunk for more than sleep? Amelia. Do you want more than this? I asked, knowing that she would understand immediately. Only if it would be uncomfortable for you otherwise, she replied. No, your closeness is quite sufficiently satisfying, I said, truthfully, kissing her on the forehead since her lips were rather out of range. Though I do hope we have some time to indulge ourselves while in Edinburgh. Yes, I hope so too, she said with evident enthusiasm. Within a few minutes, I could tell she was asleep. The train raced on with the steady clackety-clack of the wheels on the rails. Almost certainly I slept too, but my dreams and my memories coalesced. I was somehow transported back to my youth. I was born not more than 5 miles from where I now lived. My father, and his father before him, were ironmongers in Tonbridge, but until 1870 it was spelled Tunbridge, just as Tunbridge Wells now spells the name. My grandfather did well, and my father, I believe, did even better. By the time I was born, as the third child to my parents in 1834, they had shops on the high street in both Tonbridge and Tunbridge Wells, and my uncle ran a couple of wagons from which he sold similar goods over a radius of several miles. The shops and wagons both carried the same names, and though they were nominally separate businesses, there was a good deal of overlap in how they acquired the goods, and they would also shift items between shops and wagons to balance the stock. My grandfather and his 2 sons also ran a wholesale business under my grandmother's maiden name. This dealt mainly in ironmongery and would aggregate products and materials for the retail trade of both themselves and other merchants. This evolved quite rapidly in the 1840s, which was after my grandfather had passed on, as the railways and other engineering works were undertaken in the area, and gradually the majority of the profits of the wholesale business were in supplying such projects with tools, nails, screws, and other items that might be needed in a hurry. The railways were large enough to contract their rails and sleepers and shingle aggregate directly, but there were always urgent necessities. Ever on the watch for a good return, my father and uncle tried to keep on good terms with merchants of timber, brick, and other builders' needs. This was not too difficult, as the brothers had 3 sisters, and each married husbands in such trades. As I only occasionally worked in the business, I cannot speak to their manner of conducting it. However, the fact that they appeared to be mostly respected for fair dealing suggests they relied more on nimble and efficient response to opportunity, rather than extorting a high price when they had a particular advantage. I vaguely remember my grandfather as seemingly a very old man with a long beard. He had retired from an active role in the business, and he died when I was but 5 years old. It is a shock to realize that he died younger than I am now. Life had been hard for him, I suppose. He left each of his grandchildren £50, kept in trust at a small interest until we were each 21, including the girls. And he stipulated for each to spend only on themselves and not given to a spouse, parent, or child. For this, at least, I think him a great man, though it is almost certain the law concerning married women at the time would frustrate his wishes should the girls be wed. I also recall the bunting and some scenes of the celebrations for Queen Victoria's coronation in 1838, the year after her ascent to the throne, when I was in my 4th year. My schooling started at home, where my mother taught me to read and to do arithmetic. My father found my adeptness with figures pleasing, and the fact I could also reckon pounds, shillings, and pence caused him to give me some pocket money for checking the account books when I was but 6 or 7. At 8, I was enrolled in Tunbridge School, where I mostly enjoyed my studies, though I never found pleasure in Greek or Latin. In later years, I wished they had offered French or German or Spanish. In English, I found I did well, though my compositions were likely as stodgy as overboiled dumplings. In arithmetic and later mathematics, however, the teachers could not keep up with me. Fortunately, the maths master allowed me to study on my own and take tests he himself set for me. In this way, I learned about logarithms and trigonometry. I bought my own copies of Barlow's tables as well as those of Mr. Templeton. In my last 2 years at school, I even had occasion to work with the trigonometric and other identities, and with some of the series expansions of Taylor and Maclaurin, for computing the values of functions. At the age of 13, my father asked me what occupation I should like to follow to earn my bread. I said that I thought that it would be interesting to be an engineer, and that it should earn me a comfortable income if I were good at it. He smiled as I told him, and said he would look into the matter.